And welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I will walk you through some rounds of Steam Time. We are in 1899 and we are working for time, but this is a different time than the time in time stories, and there is no real proper translation yet as the English rules are not available. But you can freely translate it into something like Temporal Institute for Monument Exploration. And as time travel seems to be the new zombies, we will use our cool steampunked airships and fly back in time to the old pyramids or even Atlantis and meet historical celebrities such as Galileo Galilei or maybe even Leonardo da Vinci, and not the turtle, by the way. The game plays over 5 rounds. You measure that by those expenditure cards, and whoever has the most fame points by the end of the game will be the winner of Steam Time. As usual, I will really walk you through the rules, so I will not explain them to you in detail beforehand. And I set up the board for a 2-player game. You see that with this little 2 print on the top left corner of those monument boards. And there are different monument boards for the amount of players, so for a 2, 3 or 4 player scenario. And the main difference, of course, is that with a 4-player game you will have more action spaces than with a 2-player game like here. This is the player board representing the so-called steamship. Here this is a blue player, and all of the players starts with 1 crystal each, with one exception to those yellow crystals. This is something where the first player advantage will be balanced out for the other players. So all subsequent players will start with additional resources, like the second player here. He will start the game with a yellow crystal right away. A game round lasts until all of the players have placed their airships on the game board, and you can either place your airship or one of your airships on one of those action spaces, or you can claim the starting player token here, which will also grant you one of those bonus actions here. But in this case you're not placing your actual airship, at least not when it's your turn. You will not lose a placement of an airship, but you will have to postpone it at the end of the round. It's also important to mention that the current first player is not allowed to claim this starting player token with his very first action. Makes sense. When you place your airships on the board, there is one really important placement rule, and this is you have to follow the current of time. So you can place your very first airship wherever you like. So for example on this action space here at Stonehenge. The next airship you are going to play has to follow the current of time, which is always upwards. So it has to go at least 1 monument above the, let's say, last airship you placed. Of course this is only true for your own spaceship. So the red player could of course with his first action also go on this monument board here as well, but then he would also have to follow the current of time. So the next red airship has to go here, here or there. Additionally, you're also not allowed to claim an action space that has been claimed before by another player. There is, let's say, a so-called more advanced game with some of the specialists which allow you to do that, and there is also this Mr. Time here which might come into play, where you also are allowed to, let's say, do an action that has been claimed before, but normally that is not allowed. On this very first monument board, and those monument boards are placed at random during setup, and they will rotate throughout the game, so they will certainly change their positions or their relative positions throughout the game. And currently, for example, you see here this action space here, this allows you to claim the associated mission to this space, and this mission will also be replenished at the end of each round. You can have an encounter here, or you can go on an expedition and go for this army here, which is definitely a nice way to score you some serious points. But you can completely ignore the very first monument board in your round and maybe start off in this monument, on this monument board here, and then for example could go for this gold action space, which gives you 7 gold coins right away. Encounters are always cool, so I think the blue player will start the game by placing his first airship on this encounter space. You see 2 icons. For once, you see you are allowed to draw 2 encounter cards, so there are 2 cards printed on this action space, and then you are allowed to choose one of those and you get an immediate bonus action. And this is this little spiral thing here at the bottom of this action space, and this is your portal of time on your current airship. So this bonus action allows you to just advance this portal of time one space ahead. And whenever you complete a complete round in your portal of time, you are allowed to do a bonus action with Mr. Time. You can place it anywhere on the board. You can completely ignore the current of time. You can also choose an action space that has been claimed before, at least if there is still a card related to that action space, or if a mission card has been claimed already, then yeah, apparently Mr. Time can do you no good. But of course we are still allowed to draw those two encounter cards, and we then get to choose one of those. So we have Archimedes of Syracuse here, and we have James Watt. We can decide to go with either one of those. They're both entirely blue cards, so the player who drew these cards can choose one of those options here. So for example, here we can just take a yellow crystal from the reserve and place it on our generators, or we could spend one yellow crystal and gain 3 victory points for that. That's definitely a good thing, and we can do that just once. Or we can engage here James Watt, and then we have also two options. So we have a blue crystal and a black crystal, which we would be allowed to take from the reserve, or we could spend those two crystals and gain 5 victory points for those, and we are also allowed to do that. At the start of the game, I think we really need some more crystals, so I think I will meet James Watt and take a blue and a black crystal, and I immediately have to place them to the generators of my color. So this blue one goes to the engine room, and this black one here goes to the laboratory. And here you see a little -2 on that. So some of those generators, if you're trying to fully load them, you will have to pay some maintenance cost when you do that. Though in this case I have to pay 2 gold if I want to do that. Yes, I will. So I will just spend those 2 coins, and now my laboratory is fully loaded. Then I'm allowed to take a bonus, and the bonus is associated to the color of the action space. So in this case I did a blue action space. So I check my blue generator and how many crystals I currently have there, and you see I have 2 blue crystals, and for each blue crystal I'm allowed to take 1 additional steam point, and those steam points are important when it comes to exchanging resources, or they can also score you some victory points by the end of the game. And you already learned that it's important to mention that the bonus always comes after doing the action. So in this case I completely did the action, which gave me 1 additional blue crystal. In this case I gained 2 steam point. If the bonus action would be done beforehand, then apparently I would have gained only 1, or if the action did not give me a blue crystal, then I would also only be allowed to gain 1 steam point. So something to keep in mind, the bonus is always last. Then it's the red player's turn, and I think he really wants to be the first player in the next round, so he grabs himself the starting player token, and then he's allowed to take either of those bonus actions. So for once he could exchange those steam points, so 1 steam point grants him 1 victory point. He can do that 10 times each time he's claiming this first player token, or he can exchange 1 of his steam points to get 1 of those time crystals, and I think this is what he will do. So he will spend his one and only steam point, and therefore he's allowed to grab 1 of those time crystals from the secret mine, and he has to place it on his player board immediately. The good thing about those time crystals, they are wildcards, so when you place them you get to choose where to place them, but as soon as you place the time crystal, it basically gets the color of the generator it's placed onto, and I think I will put it on the portal of time. So anytime I'm doing this pink action now, I can advance this portal of time 2 spaces ahead. Though this can, let's say, guarantee me an additional bonus action anytime soon. But this was already the turn of the red player in this case. Then we come back to the blue player, and I think blue wants some money, so he places his second airship there. So for once he gets 7 coins, which he can claim right away. Again, we check the bonus space. This is the gray bonus action, the Midas machine. We have 1 gray crystal crystal, and each gray crystal gives me 2 additional coins. So we are really getting awfully rich here. This was again the second placement of the blue player. Then we come to the first placement of the red player. Remember, he did not place his airship in the very first turn. He took the first or the starting player token, and I think he will also go for an encounter. He could either go for this encounter where he's allowed to draw 2 cards, or he could move up here where he's allowed to get 3 encounter cards and choose one. And I think this is what he will do. So let's place his airship there. And here are his 3 cards. Again, for those blues, he can choose either of those 2 options. So any 2 crystals from the game board, or this is a bit different to this one, or 2 similar crystals from the reserve, so from the back. So he could choose for going to 2 blue crystals, for example, and he could really take 2 crystals from anywhere on the board, or he could also spend those in order to get some victory points. And this one here is different, as this is blue and purple. So when he takes this card, then he would take this action, that's for sure. So he can grab 2 crystals from anywhere on the board, but then he would also allow all the other players to take this second action here. So in this case, each player could pay 2 coins in order to also gain 1 crystals from anywhere on the board. And I think right now he's not feeling like sharing. In this case, he will go for Live Ericsson, and so I think he will get a yellow crystal and maybe a gray crystal up there. Of course, he also has to immediately place them on the board. So those go here. One thing I forgot to mention, those time crystals always go to the farthest right of each of the generators, and you also have to spend them first, something to keep in mind. But of course, we are still allowed to claim our bonus. This was a blue action. We're checking our engine room generator here. We have 1 blue crystal. This means we get 1 steam point. This is already the last airship of the blue player, and I think he wants to take one of those mission cards. So he places his last airship on this action space, so he's allowed to claim this mission card. And this mission card goes face down beside his player board, but for now we really don't care. And by the end of the game, he can then spend 2 of those time crystals. He can do that once in order to get 5 victory points. So those mission cards really are only important for the end game scoring. That's why you're keeping those face down, and you have to really spend all those resources. So you have to prepare all of those mission cards accordingly. This was a green action space, so we're checking out the bridge. Right now we have 1 crystal on our bridge, and this means blue just scored his very first victory point. Then it's red. Red wants to go for some more crystals. So he will place his airship on this crystal space here. For once, he gets an immediate bonus of 1-2 victory points, and then he can buy either of those crystals, or he could go for all of them. And in the base game, without any specialist, that's 2 coin per crystal, and I think he will go with a yellow and a green crystal. So he takes them, pays $4, gets 1 back, and then we have to place those crystals accordingly. So 1 goes to the bridge. So anytime he's using now a green action, he would gain 2 victory points. That's certainly something. And this calculation machine here with the yellow crystal, this is something I think show you within his next placement. But we are still allowed to take a bonus. This was a black action space. We are checking his laboratory again. In this case, again, we have 1 black crystal. So again, we get 1 time crystal. Again, it always goes to the last space here, and that's pretty much it for this place. But he still has 1 more ship last because he took the starting player token, and with his last airship I think he will go for an upgrade. So he will place it on the very last monument board up there. In order to get this update or upgrade, you have to pay 3 crystals. So you see that here it's printed on the board, on the upgrade A, B and C. Therefore, we now have to check the current expenditure card, and these expenditure cards are changing throughout the game, and there's a whole pile of different expenditure cards, so they're not the same in each of the game. In this case, we are looking for A, B and C. So in order to buy this upgrade, he has to pay a gray, a green and a blue crystal. Let's check his generators, and he can easily pay those. So we have the gray here, that's not a problem. We have the green here. Again, we have to take the time crystal first, unfortunately, and then we have to get rid of a blue crystal. This would be his last blue crystal, so he could now decide to spend 1 Steam point and exchange the requirement to any other color. So for example, he could decide that yellow then would be a blue crystal, but in this case it really doesn't matter. He will just spend the blue crystal. So he's allowed to take the upgrade now. He immediately scores the update. So for once you get income each subsequent round, but you also get the bonus that's printed on those upgrades right away. In this case, that's 1 coin and 2 more victory points. Then he takes the upgrade and places it next to his airship. There are only 4 of those spaces, but you can buy as many upgrades as you can afford. But realistically, I think 3 or 4 upgrades is really something that I learned is really very realistic. Sometimes you only have 1 or even 2, something like that. And as mentioned, at the start of each round, you get now income from those upgrades of 1 coin and 2 additional victory points, and that's certainly worth mentioning. Of course, we must not forget that this was a pink action space, so we can still use his portal of time. He has currently 2 crystals there, so he can move this disc 2 spaces ahead, really coming close to the bonus action with Mr. Time. This was already the first round of Steam Time, so we will send all those airship bags to the appropriate players. We will discard all mission cards that have not been claimed this round. The same happens with all of the crystals and the upgrades. And we will also discard all expeditions that have not been visited. As mentioned, those monument boards rotate, so the first one goes to the bottom and all the others will slide up, and then we will replenish all the cards. So we will start with new mission cards. Again, we put them close to those green arrows. We will also replenish all of the crystal sites on the monument boards. Then we will also replenish the upgrades, and for each round there is 1 pile of upgrades. So we are now in round 2, although we take the upgrades from the according pile and we'll place them on the action spaces. According, you see they're getting more expensive there, but they're also providing, let's say, different kind of benefits throughout the game. And as there are more upgrades for each round than the actual action spaces, you will never play with all of the same upgrades in each game. So you really have to adapt your playing style, which I think is really neat. We have the same for the expedition stack, so there is a mini pile for each of the rounds. So in this case we will replenish from 2. So in this round we could theoretically visit Taj Mahal. Last thing to do is to replace the expenditure cards. So again we come to the second alpha card. So there are 2 alpha cards and 3 omega cards, and you see there is a different demand for those costs for upgrades or doing expeditions. So in this case A would be yellow, B would be black, and so on. Then we start the next round, and we start with the so-called income phase. So we check all the upgrades of the players. Right now only the red player has 1 upgrade, so he gets 1 coin and 2 additional victory points, and he gets this bonus each round now. So you see those upgrades are really huge. Red starts the round with his first action. He cannot claim the starting player token. This makes sense, I guess. So he really wants to make sure to get this mission card here. So he will place his first airship on this mission space. So for once he gets this immediate bonus. So again, 1 step ahead on the portal of time. And then he grabs this mission card here. And this mission card says you can exchange, by the end of the game of course, 1 of those upgrades for 2 points each. And you can do that 6 times. So this really gives you a very cool strategy in how to play this game. So we will now know that red will certainly go for more upgrades in this round. So we claim this card, place it next to his player board. Again, you would normally do that face down. This was a green action space. We're checking his bridge. Currently he still has 2 green crystals on his bridge, so he just got an additional 2 victory points for that. Then it's blue, and I think blue will only take the starting player token, and he will spend 1 Steam point, to get one of those time crystals, and I think he will just place it here on his calculation machine. Maybe he considers to do an expedition later on. And he also has this mission card, so at the end of the game he needs 2 of those time crystals in order to score 5 additional points anyway. Then it's red again, and I think red wants to go for another encounter, so he draws 3 cards, and he can go for the brothers Montgolfier, Jakob Fugger, or Heron of Alexandria. These are $8. That's really a big deal. He might never go after cash again. That would be 4 victory points, but then blue could also go for 2. I think he doesn't want to do that. Or he could go for 2 of those Steam points. That's also not too bad, to be honest. But those $8. No, I think he will visit Jakob Fugger and gets 8 more points. This was a blue action space, but unfortunately doesn't have a blue crystal, so he's not getting any bonuses in respect to his Steam points. Pity. It's the blue player's turn, and I think he will also go for an upgrade here, and he will go for this upgrade down there, which gives him 1 crystal from any mine on the board, and also 3 coins each round, and also directly when he claims it. He has to pay 4 crystals, yellow, black, pink and gray. I think for yellow he will spend a blue crystal instead, so he will give away 1 Steam point. So this was the yellow crystal, this is the black crystal, then we have the pink crystal and the gray crystal. Yeah, that's right. So he's allowed to take this upgrade, which gives him 3 coin, so give him 5 and 2 back, and he's also allowed to claim any crystal anywhere on the board, and I think he will go with this for this pink crystal here, and he immediately places it onto his generator here on the time portal, and that's because he will now do the bonus, and now he has 1 crystal, so he would be allowed to advance this disc 1 space ahead, and of course he's allowed to place the upgrade beside his airship. Nice. Then it's red's turn, and red will be able to do an expedition. I think this is what he will do. So he will put his airship next to the Taj Mahal. First of all, he has to pay some crystals for this time travel, and this works pretty much the same like with all of the upgrades. In this case we have to spend 2 crystals. That's A and B, so a yellow and a black crystal. In this case he also wants to keep the yellow crystal, so he will also spend 1 of those Steam points. He will get rid of 1 green crystal instead and 1 black crystal. That's not a problem. Now he has visited the Taj Mahal, so for once he can claim this expedition cards, and there are mission cards out there which grant you victory points for each of those expedition cards, but he immediately gets the bonus that is printed on those expedition card, and you see for each level of your yellow crystals you gain a certain reward. In this case he has currently 3 of those crystals on his calculation machine, and so for the first crystal he gets 3 victory points. Unfortunately for the second crystal there is no bonus, but for the third crystal he would be allowed to gain 6 more coins. This is really huge. So first of all let's give him the 1, 2, 3 victory points, and then he gets the $6, and wow, he's really awful rich. I think he will never have to visit one of those gold spaces anymore in this game. But of course he can also claim those mission cards. We will just put it beside his player board. For now it's basically out of the game, and only important if he gets the right mission card later on. Blue still has 2 more airships left, so I think he will also go for an encounter here. And here are his 2 cards, and Cornelius Vanderbilt is really powerful, so he could go for 3 similar crystals, so for example 3 green ones, or he could give away 3 similar crystals to get 8 victory points. That's also huge. Or he could visit Bisheng for 4 victory points, but I think he also doesn't feel like sharing, so he will visit good old Cornelius Vanderbilt here, and I think he will go for 3 yellow crystals. Remember, they have to be the same. He has a little maintenance symbol on it, so he has to pay 2 golds in order to place this crystal here. That's not really a problem. Red is basically out, so he has no more airships left, so we can directly jump over the 3rd and last airship for the blue player, and I think he will prepare for the 3rd round and will send his airship there in order to buy some crystals. For once he gets 2 victory points right away. 1, 2, and then he will buy all of those crystals here. $6 in total. He pays his 6 coins and is allowed to place his blue crystals and the green crystals on his player board accordingly. And yeah, this was already the 2nd round of Steam Time. I think I will end my walkthrough here, so this will go on until the end of round 5. The last thing that you would do in order to gain some more victory points are those mission cards. So let's just consider these are the mission cards for one of the players, so he could give away 6 or up to 6 of his upgrades and get 2 victory points for those. Here he can give away 2 time crystals and get 5, and here he can spend, or he has to spend 4 Steam points in order to get 6 victory points. And yeah, then you do the scoring, and whoever is in the lead by the end of the game is of course the winner of Steam Time. 1 or 2 little things I have not shown to you in detail are for once Mr. Time here. So whenever a player completes a complete round on his Portal of Time like this one here, he immediately takes the bonus action, so he gets Mr. Time and he can place them on the board anywhere he would like to have him, and really can ignore the current of time and already occupied spaces. So for example, if Red wants to take 2 more or 3 more encounter cards, he could place Mr. Time there, then he would do this action. He could also get the bonus, so that's really important to mention, and then when you resolve this action, Mr. Time goes back to his time compass, and then the next player could gain him as well. Once or twice I mentioned those more advanced rules, and those are those specialist cards. Each player starts the game with a deck of those specialist cards, and you can choose 2 of them at the start of the game, and later on you will just draw up until you have 2 again. And before you're doing any action, you can decide to place one of those specialists, and this specialist is then in place as long as it's on top of your, let's call it, discard pile. So for example, you could go with a commander here, and the commander says you can also claim occupied action spaces, and if you do that, then you also gain 1 victory point and 1 Steam each time to do that. But in this case you have to follow the current of time, and then maybe in your next placement you decide, I no longer want to use the commander, I want to use the prospector here, and the prospector reduces the price for each of the crystals you are going to pay on those action spaces, and you also paying 1 gold when you are placing crystals on space which cost you normally 2. So if he would then place whatever the 5th crystal here, we would only pay 1 for those. There is 1 additional component to the advanced game, and they're all optional, and those are those saboteur tokens. Each player starts with 1 of them, and at the replenish phase at the end of each round you can place them on an action space wherever you like on the board, and when another player wants to claim that action space, I think that's including you, then this player has to pay 1 time crystal for each sabotage token that's placed on this action space. So there could be more than just 1 sabotage tokens on 1 single action space. That's definitely a very mean way to address this game, but definitely brings some more spice to the core game. I really hope you enjoyed my little walkthrough of Steam Time here. Hope to see you soon in one of my next videos. Yeah, and until then, bye bye.